This episode was recorded in front of a live audience where viewers voted for the ingredients. It has been edited down from its original runtime. Check, check, check.
Hello.
Y'all are probably wondering what we're brewing tonight. These folks get to vote, and they voted, and overwhelmingly they went with wild card because they're gluttons for punishment, I think.
Well, I mean, that's probably the most likely way to stumble upon something great that no one's ever done before.
Oh, it's gonna be great. This one was episode 9. This was 3 pounds of sugar, 2 honeydew melons.
Mm-hmm.
We did this one in the Mr. Beer.
Oh, okay. You're getting your mileage out of that.
Getting my money's worth, my $31 worth out of it. There was 1 banana, which we cut into rings.
Okay.
And the whole banana went in.
Okay.
Just all of it. The zest and juice of a lemon, coconut flakes, and then we used an aggressive champagne yeast called EC1118 that cut through all of it. And so then we racked it off, and look how wonderfully that's cleared. This one had an orange blossom honey base, 6 pounds of mixed berries, a lemon, peel and juice, pomegranate molasses, an entire bottle of pomegranate molasses.
Okay.
An entire 12-ounce bottle of Acer Glen that we just dumped into primary, and somehow it was able to ferment. Smoked jalapenos, there were 6 of those.
Okay.
There. Then we used OptiRed and pectic enzyme to break down some of the stuff and help maintain the red color. You can just see that pinprick of light, which tells you how crystal clear this is.
I mean, it looks like a laser pointer.
Other than pectic enzyme, we didn't do it. We didn't cold crash it or anything. What we're gonna do with this tonight is determine next steps, which I tasted it a few days ago, but I want to taste it with you and talk about your perception of what it tastes like. And then we'll probably end up stabilizing this so we can back sweeten it on Monday night stream. This we're just gonna taste and talk about some next steps with. We're not going to rack either of these off, though. We're just going to taste and talk. These are the beers that we made in BrewsLab episode 3. Those were made with Pilsen light dry malt extract, rice syrup solids, biscuit malt, midnight wheat malt, centennial hops for bittering, and then strizzle spalt dry hopped, and the zest of 1 orange.
That is really dark.
Yeah.
You're not going to see much through that one.
It does not hold a lot of head, or at least mine didn't. Maybe I poured more delicately than you did.
It smells like coffee, actually.
You notice that it's got biscuit malt in there. You can smell the biscuity notes on the nose. It's got just a little bit of a Maillard, like a burnt cookie kind of smell.
And that's just the malt, right?
Yeah, that would have been from the biscuit malt. The midnight wheat should bring in some chocolatey character, but the amount we used is probably not going to bring a real pronounced flavor. A biscuit malt is apparent.
It is. It's kind of tangy.
That would be the orange zest.
Yeah. I don't hate it, but it's a little odd going with the other flavors.
It is definitely a very light beer.
Yeah.
That is very dark in color. It reminds me a little bit of a Dos Equis Amber, except it's got an extra biscuity note.
Have you had the Stella Midnight? That's what this tastes like, except it's got the orange in it.
The orange is strong, y'all.
It's a little too much orange, in my opinion.
So what we're going to make tonight is a Skeeter pea, which technically falls in the realm of a wine, but they have an option to flip this on its head a little bit. We're going to get started on our voting. So this is our wild card box. Let's talk about Skeeter pea real quick. Skeeter pea usually is a sugar wash. It's an inverted sugar, so you apply heat and acid to the sugar, converting the sucrose molecule into the less complex molecules, fructose and glucose, which makes it easier for the yeast to eat. Sciencey stuff. Add a little bit of your lemon juice. You bring it up to a boil, let it cool, and that way your sugar gets inverted, and then you add the rest of your water, ferment from there. And then over the course, as you hit sugar breaks, you add more of your lemon juice, until the last sugar break when you've added all of your lemon juice, and it should be a few days later finished fermenting. So you're kind of step feeding it lemon juice and nutrient as you go.
So what's your start to finish time on a typical Skeeter pea batch?
About a month usually. Usually it's ready to drink in 6 weeks. It's
So it's fast.
quick. Yeah. Skeeter pea, typically you're using a healthy slurry from a previous batch of something that you've brewed. We're not going to do that tonight because we don't have anything to rack from that we can do that with. We're going to make a starter though. But we need to start with wildcard because they're going to have the option to flip the script on the Skeeter pea, which would start with the wildcard, which would throw off everything else we're doing tonight.
Perfect.
So we're going to start at the end so then we can build back to the beginning. The first thing in our wildcard box, peach preserves. And if you look, this was actually packaged in great old Oklahoma City.
Clements Foods Co.
Home of the Dodgers.
No preservatives, no artificial coloring or flavoring. So
exactly.
I mean, it's peaches and corn syrup, basically.
So
25 servings, 10 grams. So you got 250 grams of sugar.
250 grams of sugar, and you said it's high fructose corn syrup?
We've got corn syrup and high fructose corn syrup and sugar and pectin and citric acid.
Okay, so just keep that in mind. There's 250 grams of sugar in there. Mm-hmm. And we're going to do this as probably like a 1.5 gallon batch. Your second option, this dried ghost pepper.
I've learned my lesson with these.
Yeah. The ghost peppers here were sent in by a subscriber, Casey, who sent me a ton of peppers. So if you want some peppers on your way out tonight, Casey has some awesome peppers. I mentioned there's also a way that you can flip the script on this. One of the ways that you could do that would be by subbing out the invert sugar for Munich malt extract.
That'd be really weird, honestly.
Yeah, to have like a malty...
Yeah, because it's so sweet. I mean, it basically tastes like country lemonade from the South that's like just hyper sweet.
Yeah. If we go with that option, I talked to Rob. You know, Rob's our resident beer expert. If we're going to do a standard Skeeter pea, I'm going to throw 71B in there.
Okay.
Because I don't really care for this yeast, and I have a ton of it in the fridge, so I'm trying to get rid of it. This is a great opportunity to do that, and it would chew through the sugars in Skeeter pea just fine. That said, if they decide to go with malt extract instead of invert sugar, we're going to co-pitch 71B, which is not a killer factor strain yeast. We're going to co-pitch it with Philly Sour. Philly Sour is a beer yeast, which Rob tells me is not even Saccharomyces. It should theoretically play well with 71B, and it should be able to eat through malt sugars that 71B probably couldn't because it's a wine yeast. We don't want to necessarily under-attenuate the Skeeter pea. I felt like the best way to do that would be to put Philly Sour in here. Philly Sour is a yeast that creates alcohol.
Okay.
But at the same time, it creates lactic acid, like a sour beer.
Yeah.
And it's like new to the market, special strain of yeast, but it would be, at the same time we're adding all of the citric acid to this, we would also be building up lactic acid, which I think is weird and fun.
Kind of, yeah.
The last wildcard option would be that instead of using lemon juice as our base for the Skeeter pea, we would instead be using grapefruit puree. I'm going to let them talk for a little bit. Let's taste this.
Okay. All right.
Looks like everybody's into the idea of using the grapefruit instead of lemon. Flail Snail says Skeeter pea with malt extract might be a first. I'm not seeing any hits with a quick Google.
Probably because it's a terrible idea.
You ready to drink this? This stinks, dude.
Yeah, it smells really bad.
This stinks a lot.
It's really stinky.
It smells like feet and rotten bananas.
Yeah. Just tastes like rotten bananas.
It's really hot, too.
With some melon thrown in for good measure.
There's a lot of
it is
alcohol burn. There's tannin there because
all
that flavor just hangs around.
Yeah, that smells terrible and it tastes awful.
I mean, consider it's young, you know.
It's not going to matter.
It might. 4 years from now, we may look back.
It's always going to smell like that.
Wish we made more.
Almost guaranteed.
That's real bad. Because having all those flavors without any sugar to back them up is just really overwhelming. So we're going to go with grapefruit puree. Well, let's get started with the 1 pound, 13 ounces of sugar, and then somebody at some point will tell us how much grapefruit juice is going in here. Tonight's show is a mess. We haven't even finished our first beer yet. I got other stuff to drink in here. Okay, let's invert some sugar. We're going to put 1/3 of this can in here, and then we're going to add some water and bring this to a boil. We should go to more voting, so they can be voting while we do these next steps. So let's break out.
Box number 1.
So this is your tannin box. As we like to say, every brew needs a good balance of acid, tannin, and sweet. Yeah, there's some stuff in here.
There is some stuff in there.
We are going to need to add some tannin to this. There's a variety of ways we could do it. We could do it in here if we wanted to, depending on some of these. Or we can do it in primary.
Tea bags.
Black tea. Just black tea. Everybody knows what that tastes like. Second ingredient, also a tea. We've got raspberry zinger. It might add hibiscus, rose hips, roasted chicory, orange peel, blackberry leaves, natural raspberry flavor with other natural flavors, raspberries, and raspberry leaves.
It's going to stand up real well against this grapefruit puree.
The tannin will.
The tannin will, yes. That could be interesting.
Fancy stuff. You got that right, Bloth 80. Also, we've got some golden raisins. You could make a perfectly good Skeeter pea with raisins for tannin, because really the only reason you're adding tannin to Skeeter pea is to build the body of it, so it like hangs around in your palate. And raisins do an okay job of that. They also add raisin flavor, and at this level, if we use this whole box of raisins, it's going to add a little bit of raisin flavor. Fourth and final option for our tannin box. Anna's grandmother gave me this, made from Oklahoma persimmons. Persimmon jam.
Does she grow them, or do they just grow wild?
There's a tree out by their pond.
Okay, I was going to say.
I took one off the tree during the growing season last year because they were ripe, and I thought that the wicking sensation in my mouth was never going to go away. Like, I felt like I just ruined my palate by taking a bite of this thing. She warned me that this is very astringent. If they choose this one, we're going to taste it.
Yeah, we'll have to.
We can't not taste it. But this might be a good option. This is not the color I thought it was going to be.
Unfortunately, it is. It is.
Don't let me forget this is over here.
Okay.
Because I'll need to freeze that so we can dose this as we hit sugar breaks. I'm going to add just a little bit of the water here. Our goal is going to be to bring this up to a boil, probably hold that boil for 5 minutes.
Sure.
And then we should be good to go. The molecules should break down pretty rapidly. And then before we're ready to put it into the brewing vessel, we'll hit it with the rest of that water to cool it down.
Sure. So presumably people have made just straight grapefruit Skeeter pea, right? I would assume. Grapefruit's not a far cry away from something as acidic as a lemon.
There's your taster of the mead made with pomegranate molasses, fruit, honey, more mead, and lemon. Oh, and smoked jalapenos. Cannot forget smoked jalapenos. The heat hangs around.
I drink that.
I think the acid balance on it is nice. I think the tannin is nice. I do think I want to stabilize and back sweeten it though. Having some sugar, probably honey, something to just a little bit take the edge off of the heat and the acid would be nice. And it would help it cling around a little bit more.
I like the heat. This would be too hot for some people. I don't think it's bad. I mean, I would drink a glass of it, maybe 2 glasses of it.
Yeah.
But
it's a little bit heartburn juice, though.
Yeah, you could definitely get that.
Which I think is the acid, not the capsaicin.
You need to back sweeten, and honey's probably your best bet to kind of just give it a little bit more mellow burn, I guess.
Yeah.
But the flavor's not bad.
It's not bad. I'm going to stabilize it unless the chat has opinions about stabilizing it. I'm going to add potassium metabisulfite and potassium sorbate.
Okay.
So this is a Campton tablet. It's potassium metabisulfite. Throw it in here, break it up. Don't breathe this. It's a respiratory irritant. And then you use 1 heaping half teaspoon of potassium sorbate per gallon. Persimmon jam, 1. We'll give that 48 hours. That kind of stinks.
I mean,
it smells like hot citrus.
That's what it is. So that's a good sign. We're at 5 minutes. Should we cut it?
Yeah, cut that heat, and we'll let it sit for just a minute.
Wow, that is dense.
It is thick. It's a thick boy. That is precisely what I expected.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
They thought maybe the sugar would make it palatable. It did not.
It's kind of like eating sandpaper.
It really does. Like a mouthful of chalk. It's really unpleasant.
It's just really bad. We'll see what happens with the brew.
So how much of that do you think we should add then? Definitely shouldn't do the whole jar.
No.
It's going to be a train wreck if we do the whole jar. But I think like a tablespoon?
That might be enough.
This is adjunct box 1, and then we will have adjunct box 2. If you're a fan of Facebook or Twitter, now's the time to send this link out to your friends because it's about to get weird. It's about to get real weird up in here. Because some of the things we're going to be pulling out of our adjunct boxes might inspire.
Or disturb.
All right, y'all ready for this? So our first adjunct ingredient tonight, this is freeze-dried raspberries that have been powdered in the same way you'd have powdered sugar. Also from Olive Nation is cinnamon extract. Let's just unceremoniously get that out of the way.
Well, I mean, really? I mean, it's up to you guys, but...
Cinnamon and grapefruit and persimmon, it's just a match made in heaven.
It goes hand in hand, man.
I think we're going to have some pH issues as we get into this, but
yeah,
we'll see what happens. Third ingredient is a light toast, maybe a medium toast, oak. You like to oak your Skeeter pea? Paula says the oak might be good in it. It's definitely going to help the persimmon in the tannin department. The final option in adjunct box number 1. What we have here is 72 sticks of gum that came out of 30-year-old sticks of Topps Wax Pack baseball card gum.
I just turned into powder.
It tastes like bubblegum, though, and cardboard. Do you have health insurance?
It'll be fine.
It tastes exactly how I remember it tasting. The texture is very different, but I remember this gum tasting like bubblegum and cardboard.
Yeah, and honestly, the flavor is already gone.
I think the raspberry would be an excellent choice if we're trying to like brew something palatable. I mean, cinnamon honestly has me intrigued.
Yeah, you couldn't just like go to town with it because that's all you would taste.
The 30-year-old bubblegum is ahead, but the raspberry powder is doing work. I would prefer it if you rational folks smash that raspberry powder button. The voting is happening, and then we have one more adjunct box that we're going to do. And there is still things of considerable interest in that box. Raspberry powder has won. I think this might just go in the trash.
What was the margin there?
One vote.
Ooh, that smells really good.
So I'm just going to scoop a little bit. Do you want to like snort a line of this?
No, I don't.
It immediately becomes a paste in your mouth. I wasn't prepared for it to just turn into goo.
I think it's good. It is
good. It tastes like raspberries. Let's do half. And when we rack it to secondary, if we think it needs more raspberry flavor, we'll add the other half of the bag.
There you go.
Everybody comfortable with 25 grams of persimmon? I hope so. Nice, nice. Yeah. Last box, yo. This is adjunct box numero dos. Your first option, little charcoalberry fin Kool-Aid powder. Second potential ingredient for this brew, non-alcoholic pina colada drink mix. Your third potential adjunct ingredient is some blueberries. Typical adjunct options here.
Sure.
Put on your safety harnesses. We have cuttlefish ink.
I mean, it's not like...
It smells like rotten fish. I took a way too big of a whiff of that.
I don't think it smells as bad as you do. I mean, it's not pleasant, but it's not like...
There are 310 milligrams per serving of sodium.
I was going to say, yeah.
And there are 11 servings in here. There's no way we would put this whole thing in there.
No. If the cuttlefish goes in, it's just going to taste like that. It's going to taste like
almost definitely
fruity fish.
Nobody wants cuttlefish in here.
I mean, if
Sharkleberry
you do,
Finn
then
is
whatever,
way out in
vote. That's
front.
fine. Like, I mean, I'll try it eventually, but it's gonna taste like. Well, that's what's fun because part of it's like sabotage.
That said, it looks like we're going to be brewing with Sharkleberry Finn.
That's
where the poll's going.
Not offensive at all.
So that's 1¼ gallons. Larry asks, do you ever check pH? Answer is no. Should I? Probably. So let's pull a little bit of our must out, and I will weigh out a couple of grams of Go Firm. And it looks like we'll just be using 71B then also, because we don't need a yeast that is going to be able to break down maltose.
I just did that the most awkward way possible.
Y'all love to make good brews. I appreciate that about you. Y'all aren't just like tearing my stuff up in here. I give you just horrible options some weeks, and you just turn it into magic. I want to smell Sharkleberry Finn before you put it in there. Oh,
That's not
that
bad.
smells pleasant.
Yeah.
This is going to be a good brew, you know?
It's gonna be sweet. And
It's gonna be tart.
Very tart.
Did we ever determine a name for this? The not Skeeter pea name? I like Dragonfly pea. I want to give our starter just a couple of more minutes to get going. How's it smell? Nice and yeasty? Guess what our gravity and potential ABV are. This has invert sugar, grapefruit puree, which I will step feed it as we hit our 1/3 and 2/3 sugar breaks. I will also be giving this diammonium phosphate starting tomorrow and doing a staggered diammonium phosphate dose to this, so that way we have nutrient along the way as the pH of this continues to go lower and become more acidic. It's also got persimmon jam. I think we said 25 grams.
Yes.
Is that what it was? Of persimmon jam to add tannin. We've got raspberry freeze-dried powder. We added half the bag, so about 4 ounces. And then we'll probably add the other half of a bag in secondary. Also, we've got Sharkleberry Finn Kool-Aid in here. And we're using 71B white wine yeast as our yeast. We have 1.069, 1.055, 1.054, 1.06. We're at 1.080, just over 10% alcohol. That's high.
There's pretty much sugar in everything we put in there.
Yeah. Yeah, Larry,
judge
we'll be
that.
diluting it just a hair with the grapefruit. And then obviously when we back sweeten with sugar, if we stabilize and back sweeten, that will be diluting it down a little bit too. So yeah, we may be more in the realm of 9 3/4 to 10%. We have made what started out as a Skeeter pea and became a grapefruit-based, raspberry-based, kind of country fruit wine, I guess. This is being brewed with some very unconventional ingredients. And that is what you support when you become a member or a patron or you give bits or become a Twitch sub. You're paying for our drinking, but also for the information that we obtain throughout that process. All right, y'all been great. Have a wonderful evening. Thanks for joining us.